Hello, WrestleRanters, and welcome to WrestleRant edition number 29. I'm your host, Bleacher Report featured columnist level 2, Graham GSM Matthews, here today to talk about this week's editions of WWE's Friday Night SmackDown, as well as TNA Impact Wrestling from this past Thursday night, because there are really no other headlines in the world of wrestling, so let me just get right down to talking about this week's edition of Impact. Now, for one thing, Impact has probably been a lot better lately than it has usually been. At the end of 2011, it was kind of slowing down, not a lot of good additions. But now, just recently, they're really starting to heat up, especially with Bobby Roode as the TNA Heavyweight Champion. We definitely saw more of that this past Thursday night. I'm not going to talk about the entire show, only two segments that really stood out for me. And one segment that I really liked about this past week's Impact was the fact that they really headlined the X Division stars in this show, being Austin Aries, the X Division champion, as well as the returning Alex Shelley. Now, Alex Shelley has not been seen on TV for a number of months now and is finally back in the X Division championship picture. And Austin Aries versus Alex Shelley is a feud that I've been pushing for since Austin Aries became X Division champion. You know, he's been feuding with Brian Kendrick, Jesse Sorensen, Kid Cash, all these other X Division stars except for Alex Shelley. Now that Alex Shelley is finally back, we can finally see this feud finally come to fruition. There's a lot of things I like about this segment between Austin and Aries. Not Austin and Aries, I'm sorry, Alex and Austin. They really brought up the history between the two as well when Alex Shelley proclaimed that he wasn't there when Austin Aries won the X Division Championship, so he had no say in it. And another thing, when Austin Aries beat Alex Shelley in his Impact Wrestling debut match back this past summer, and not clean, by the way, which Austin was quick to point out. Alex Shelley was quick to point out. So they're really starting to headline the X Division stars. I'm really liking that. They both had excellent mic time. Austin Aries is like I tweeted on Thursday night live during Impact. Austin Aries is like the CM Punk of the X Division, so I'm really liking this feud and where it's going. And I'm also really liking the fact that we're going to be able to see Alex Shelley next week live in action against, I believe, Zema Ion. No, not Zema Ion, I'm sorry. Or maybe it is Zema Ion. Maybe it's Zema Ion or Kid Cash. I can't really remember at the moment. But that looks to be like a really good feud. So I'm really looking forward to that. And also today, I forgot to mention this when I started the show, I had my ECW Championship. I just posted an article on Bleacher Report about meeting Mick Foley last month. You guys know, you saw my videos about interviewing Tommy Dreamer and whatnot. And, just to prove that I did meet Tommy Dreamer and we are good friends, if you didn't believe it from the Tommy Dreamer video that I posted last month, he also signed my ECW Championship belt right here, Tommy Dreamer. He said that he never held it, but obviously he did back in 2009 when he was part of the new ECW. But anyway, back on the Impact, another thing that really stood out for me during the show was the fact that they really headlined also the main event with James Storm versus Jeff Hardy. Now that's another amazing match. It had a pretty good match for what it was worth and while it lasted. I'm glad it didn't have a clean finish or a dirty finish for that is. It had a non-finish because those two are the top baby faces of the promotion and they can have an excellent feud down the road. So I'm glad they didn't give that away on free television. And then they also highlighted the fact that Bobby Roode is also involved in this championship picture. So I'm really glad that went to a non-finish and that they can have Bobby Roode defend against both James Storm and Jeff Hardy at Against All Odds in a couple of weeks. That could be an excellent championship match if done correctly, maybe adding Kurt Angle to make it a fatal four-way over the belt. So overall, TNA Impact is a very strong addition, very solid, a lot of good matches. Good promos, as I said before, from the X Division stars and other people. So I really thoroughly was entertained by this edition of TNA Impact, and hopefully they can keep it up throughout the rest of 2012. I mean, this is TNA we're talking about, so I'm not going to get my hopes up over it. But hopefully we see more from TNA Impact with editions like this in coming weeks. So moving on to last week's Friday Night SmackDown, it was a good show. It was the Sin City SmackDown taking place from Las Vegas, Nevada. We usually see the Raw Roulette Wheel take place on Monday Night Raw, but instead we saw it take place on SmackDown this week. And we were given a lot of entertaining matchups. We had that fun, brief tag team match, the Tornado Tag Team match between WWE Tag Team Champions Primo and Epico versus the Usos, which only lasted a few minutes, but it was fun for what it was worth. we had Ted DiBiase versus Hunico in an innovative flag match, which saw Ted DiBiase pick up the victory there. That was pretty good as well. What else did we have? That tables match between Sheamus and Wade Barrett. That was an excellent match. Those two have great chemistry. And tables matches are always fun given the suspense in the matches and who can possibly go through a table and the variety of spots they can use throughout that kind of match. So that was an excellent way to end it. As well as, I mean, as much as I would like to have seen Wade Barrett go over cleanly, you know that's not going to happen when it comes to Sheamus. Sheamus hasn't lost a match clean in ages. He's like the John Cena of SmackDown pretty much, as you know, seeing that Randy Orton's injured at the moment. So they've at least progressed that feud. Wade Barrett picks up the victory. And they also proceeded to have Jinder Mahal get buried again by Sheamus following the matchup by putting him through a table. So I do not like to bury all of Jinder Mahal, but I guess there's no hope at this point because they're just making him out to be the next Sanjay Dutt. And if you do not know who Sanjay Dutt is, please Google him. He is a TNA epic failure who got released a couple years ago. So also on Friday Night SmackDown, we had that hilarious segment with Brodus Clay, Vicky Guerrero, in my personal favorite moment of the night, being the return of William Regal, my favorite wrestler in WWE today and ever in history, made his return on Friday Night SmackDown last night. Now, I mean, it wasn't a serious role as much as serious role. It wasn't, you know, like the King of the Ring thing back from a couple years ago, or at least whatever he did in ECW. But I mean, it was something. It was a comic relief role with Brodus Clay. He ended up doing a really good dancing segment, not to mention. Vicky Guerrero was hilarious. She looked like she was mentally challenged when she was doing it. That's not an offensive comment. I apologize. But she was just really funny when she was dancing, I should say. And Brodus Clay was also humorous, as always, in his dancing role. So, and then Regal came out, I should say, and started dancing, and then Brodus Clay attacked him. So hopefully we see a feud progress between those two, because those guys could really use it. It could create some great matches between William Regal and Brodus Clay, and really help get Brodus Clay over as a technical wrestler on Friday nights. So we also had that blindfold match between Drew McIntyre and Santino Marella. That was completely unnecessary, and the only thing about last night's SmackDown that I did not like, because you remember a couple years ago they were pushing Drew McIntyre as the future World Heavyweight Champion as signed per Mr. McMahon, the WWE Chairman, and now he's nothing more than a WWE Superstars jobber who is just competing on SmackDown just to earn himself a contract, which he's not going to get if he keeps on losing matches, especially someone like Santino Marella. So, I mean, I really do not have any hope for this angle. They're just continuously making me lose hope for McIntyre. I mean, this really doesn't do anything for anyone. They already had the comic relief in the dancing segment, so they really didn't need to do it again in the blindfold match. So hopefully they use McIntyre correctly down the line. Maybe it's going to lead to a face turn. Who knows? We're going to have to see. And also at the beginning of the night, we were supposed to have Intercontinental Champion Cody Rhodes versus Hornswoggle, but Justin Gabriel made the save and challenged Cody Rhodes to a match non-title. Then Cody Rhodes picked up the victory. That was a good match. I really like this thing between Hornswoggle and Justin Gabriel. Yeah, sure, I hate Hornswoggle as much as anyone else, but I mean, it's helping getting Justin Gabriel over, because you know how over Hornswoggle is with the crowd. So aligning him with Justin Gabriel is going to get him the reaction that Gabriel needs to become a serious mid-carder. This is definitely a good match. Justin Gabriel got a lot of offense. And hopefully this is not the end of the matches between Gabriel and Rhodes, because I'd love to see those two go at it over the IC title. So also in the main event, we had Mark Henry versus Daniel Bryan for the World Heavyweight Championship in a lumberjack match, no less. I mean, it was pretty predictable. I mean, that's what happens when you put two heels against each other, so the crowd didn't really react all that they could have, given that they were both heels. And adding in the horrific lumberjack match stipulation, you couldn't really get a great match out of this. I mean, it was good for what it was worth. I mean, it was a pretty good match. These two have excellent chemistry, Daniel Bryan and Mark Henry, but just the lumberjack thing was definitely holding them back, as well as the fact that they're both heels, so they're both being attacked by the lumberjacks, and Daniel Bryan continuously went outside. That really didn't help matters, but the ensuing brawl afterwards kind of hyped the Royal Rumble match. That at least showed that they're focusing somewhat on the Royal Rumble match itself, because at the moment it doesn't really feel like it's anything special. And they also hyped the World Heavyweight Championship triple threat match after the match right at the end of the show, backstage with Teddy Long. And there was no appearance by Big Show either, so I was kind of happy about that, because I'm not the biggest Big Show supporter. So overall, I thought this was an entertaining episode of SmackDown, much like Impact. There's a lot of stuff to watch here. I don't know if it was worthy of going back and watching. I don't think anything was, except for the dancing segment. That was definitely the highlight for me. I mean, not from a wrestling standpoint, but that was the entertainment value of that was definitely high. So overall, as I just said, the action was pretty much there. They had some good action throughout the night. The segments were definitely there. So this was a full package SmackDown, much like it was last week. And I can honestly say that this week in wrestling was definitely one of the best weeks that we've had in a long time. Yeah, sure, there wasn't a pay-per-view, but I think that's a good thing. Because as I said in my Tuesday video of WrestleRant, Raw was absolutely fantastic. And then you add in this week's Impact as well as this week's SmackDown, and you just have an excellent week in wrestling. We had 3 great shows this week, Raw, SmackDown, and Impact. That is something very, very rare, because if you have Raw and SmackDown be awesome one week for WWE, then Impact sucks. Then you have Impact be awesome for one week, and then WWE is shit the other week. So, I mean, it's definitely a rare thing to say that all 3 shows this week were completely awesome, and I'm really happy as a fan. Going forward for both promotions, WWE and TNA, things are definitely looking up, and the future is bright going into the Royal Rumble pay-per-view and next Sunday, so I'm really looking forward to that. So I think that about does it for this week's edition of WrestleRant, edition number 29. So now time for these shameless plugs. You guys can follow me on Twitter at save_us_GSM. You guys can visit my website at nextdaywrestling.weebly.com for all the WWE rumors, recaps, and more. As well as check out me on Bleacher Report, Graham GSM Matthews, as well as check out the Spoilers podcast. We just recently did an interview with Matt Taven, Northeast Wrestling Superstar. Very exclusive interview, very fun time. So check that out at blogtalkradio.com/spoilerspodcast. And speaking of Blog Talk Radio, I will be appearing on Donald Wood's show, Ring Rust Radio, this upcoming Tuesday night at 7 o'clock. So that is going to be definitely a fun time. I'm really looking forward to that. So as always, guys, thank you so much for watching. Make sure to subscribe, leave a comment, like this video, and all that good stuff. So thank you very much for watching, and I will keep up with you in coming weeks and coming days and whatever. So enjoy your weekend, and this is GSM signing out. Till then, guys.